What happens during F1 crash testing? Cue the comments, well, they crashed the car, Matt. Yes, I know, the clue is in the title, but there is plenty more to be known about F1 crash testing than repeatedly hitting a wall over and over. Safety is of the utmost importance in Formula 1. The drivers reach speeds well over 300 kilometers an hour and are basically sitting on the ground with a shell around them. The sport has to do everything in its power to make sure the drivers are as safe as possible. If you look back to before 1985 though, they didn't even do crash tests before running the cars, which seems absolutely bonkers to me. It's not that they didn't care about safety as such, it's just that they were left to do it themselves, which meant that there wasn't a set of safety rules to abide by. Thankfully, fast forward to this day and age and there are several crash tests that have to be passed before teams are given permission to run their beautiful Formula 1 car. This is one of many processes the team will go through over the winter break, not only designing the car to be the quickest it can be, but also to make sure that the design concept has passed every safety measure, which can be a very difficult balance to master. Let's take a look at all the areas that are analysed during crash testing. These are the survival cell frontal impact test, roll structure testing, survival cell load tests, side impact structure, front and rear impact structure, steering column impact test, and a headrest load test as well. That is a lot of tests, because no F1 car crashes the same, so all angles and possibilities have to be covered to keep the driver as safe as possible. This is why we, thankfully, the majority of the time, see the drivers get out the car after a huge crash and simply walk away. All impact tests have to be carried out in the presence of an FIA technical delegate, and all equipment used must be to the satisfaction of the FIA. This video is brought to you by Elgato, our official streaming partner. So if you are interested in streaming, creating YouTube content, or making a podcast, you should really have a look and see what they have to offer. I'm using their Elgato Wave 3 to record this very voiceover, their Stream Deck Mark II for managing any live streams I do seamlessly, and their Facecam for, you guessed it, capturing high quality video. Check out all the products they have to offer over on their website by clicking the link in the description below. For the survival cell front impact, there are 2 tests to pass. Not only does it have to survive an initial impact, but also go through a second impact to make sure that the car isn't too vulnerable after the first crash. The roll structure testing, which are located both in front and behind the driver, are put through its paces to test whether the car can withstand massive force if it flips over at speed. This is without a doubt one of the hardest tests to pass for an F1 car, but also the most important for safety too. To give you an insight into what sort of forces the car has to endure, we are looking in the region of 20 tons delivered by a hydraulic ram, and the amount of movement the car is allowed to show, 25 millimeters. Yes, 25 millimeters. The survival cell load tests are all about putting the chassis through its paces. This tests various areas around the car, including the cockpit sides, fuel tank enclosure, under the chassis, and the nose fastenings. The examinations continue as we now move on to the side impact structure test, where 2 tubes are on the side of the chassis, one near the bottom and one higher up. These are used to help absorb the energy if the driver has a crash into a barrier side on. Now we move on to the front impact structure, which has a crucial role in absorbing impacts from, you guessed it, the front of the car, or as we more commonly call it, the nose. Its job is to reduce the impact G-force to a level that is deemed acceptable by the FIA. Moving backwards to the rear impact structure, it's put through the same sort of test to ensure that it can absorb all the nastiness from a rear impact and decelerate sufficiently. Right, we've got 2 tests to go. Next up on the list is the steering column impact structure test. With big crashes come big G-forces, and naturally, the driver's head will be thrown forward. The cockpit is so compact that the driver can easily hit their head on the end of the steering column in a crash. Therefore, the column is required to fail before penetrating the driver's helmet. Finally, we have the headrest load test. This is all about protecting the driver's head and being able to absorb the impact from the helmet onto the headrest sufficiently so that the driver's risk of damaging their noggin is minimised. I can't believe I've just used the word noggin, but I didn't want to say head again. It's not all done and dusted the second teams pass these tests either. If they change the design of any crash structures during the season, they will have to undergo the same assessments. There you have it, a look into what happens during F1 crash testing. Do you think any teams may struggle to pass all these tests going into the new season? Let us know in the comment section below.